Welcome everybody to the Energy Trials workspace. I'm going to give you guys a quick tour and then we'll get to some questions and answers. Over here we have one of my 3D printers, which currently is printing red landmines. The landmines that appeared in the recent video were of a slightly different shade of red than I ended up deciding to use. Over here we have some inventory. And here are the old / discarded / outdated prints. Then the other printer was actually just started pretty recently and it's printing a batch of walls. And we can keep an eye on this one as I answer some of your questions. Okay, I got a couple questions asking about the inspiration of Energy Trials, both the gameplay and world building. So interestingly enough, it was based on a game I thought of when I was very young. And I couldn't tell you exactly the age. In many board games when I was young, and this was a game I thought of. I called it Battle Grid, and it would take place on a square grid, and different items would spawn in, and you go pick them up, and they do different, very simple shapes. It was almost like chess moves. Like one would shoot vertically, one would shoot diagonally, or vertically or horizontally. And I made the game, and it was as bad as it sounds. It was essentially every time one person had a shot on another person, then that person also had a shot on them. And then one evening I was bored and trying to figure out what to do. I at the time found myself with much more time on my hands than I was used to. I had recently left my primary job, and another life thing had happened too, so I had just vastly more time than I was used to, and I was like, what am I going to do with all this time I was used to for over a year, just not having a time to think for a while. And so I remembered this game, Battle Grid, and I was like, God, that was my best idea that never panned out. And I was thinking about rebuilding it, and I was imagining all the things I could do, and I ran into all the same mental hurdles that I ran into physically when I built it when I was young. Like, oh yeah, this wouldn't work and that wouldn't work. And I was just sitting there like, it feels like it should, like it feels fun, like it has the right feeling, it just doesn't have the right mechanics. But then my brain just exploded and I realized all right in a row, like, oh my God, what if I put it on hexagons? What if I have different classes? What if I have wall pieces? Because in the original idea, there were like blocked off blocks, but they weren't interact withable. And all of a sudden my brain just started firing, and I started piecing it all together, and I took 2 pieces of this exact cardstock, which I for some reason love as random note keeping, and I took 2 pages front and back of just crazy scribbled notes, just trying to put all of my ideas onto one page. I don't know, inspiration. That's the origin of Energy Trials. Well, you get the origin of Energy Trials. Inspiration for game mechanics. It's just kind of what young me felt would be really fun, like arena combat kind of, in a board game setting. But then now kind of actualized into a much more intricate, much more fully formed idea of like arena combat. And then inspiration for world building. I love dystopian. I admittedly I'm a sucker for dark stories. I've always written and enjoyed dark stories. I also needed a story that fit in a world that could be expanded upon many, many, many times over. And so I have a lot of inspiration from the world of Magic the Gathering and the multiverse, which will all kind of come out as the game progresses, that you'll get to see some of this stuff. And I will share that the Ark draws some inspiration from this concept, and kind of philosophical meandering rabbit hole that I like to write about and like to ponder, and it draws into some of my personal philosophies and my business partner Lee's personal philosophies as well. So it's connected to a lot of themes and concepts that I do personally connect to, but some of those things are behind the curtain things. Up front, it's sci-fi. It's sci-fi dystopia, and it's fun. And I don't know. I just love the aesthetic of wires, and everybody calls it Tron, but I definitely don't think that's an insult. How much do you think Energy Trials will cost once it's in full production? That's a question from Instagram. Full production is so many steps ahead. It's really like hard and foreign and hard to get exactly. The answer I would give is $60, maybe $50. I think is kind of the aim. What's your favorite part of the process? Question from Discord. That's so hard because there's so many parts that I like so much. I mean, working with the 3D printers and 3D modeling in Blender is just is candy to me. Just all the stuff with the creating new designs and designing and manufacturing the 3D with the 3D printer is heaven to me. But then I can't also say the game design. I mean, my favorite hobbies in my entire life have been Pokemon, Magic, and Path of Exile, and now Energy Trials. It's a hobby too, but game design and the philosophies thereof, and to putting it down to not only a science but an art, like what's most fun and what that I can like sneakily engineer little situations that I know will come up that I know are fun. But yeah, so to make it artful like that, and to make sure that it functions on a competitive level, and that it would function on a very competitive level with very high stakes, is super important to me as well. And so just to balance all of these is, I mean, I said candy about the other thing. This is like decadent dessert. Like, it's an absolute dream that my job is staying up late at night thinking, looking at the game board, thinking, oh, what if that, etc., just like absorbing myself when it is. So I guess those two parts would be my favorite. What's the most unexpected thing that happened while you've been working on the project? I picked orange as one of the player piece colors. What is the biggest fundamental change you made from your original vision? So this one's actually pretty easy. It's just more. And not necessarily more complexity, actually, more eventfulness, kind of. More item spawns by a long shot. And I knew I would go in that direction, and there was kind of two reasons. One of which being that just as I tested, I just realized it was more fun. When more stuff happens, more chances for fun experiences and fun combos. And the other reason is like I'm just kind of a minimalist. Like my brain is always wants to just keep doing the same thing it's already doing, so I'm content with like not a lot happening. And so I knew that, you know, as I showed other people and play tested, that we would take it in a direction that's more enjoyable for everyone and just more focused on group dynamic. Again, my preference in game is 1v1 competitive or like 2v2, but definitely only two teams. And a lot of people like free for all, and it was really perfect actually, because I bring the love for the competitive 1v1, and then the community brought the love for more commander style games in Magic, or social environment games. Have you 3D printed anything in your dreams? Yes. So I was thinking, I read that one and I was trying to think, like, have I physically watched the printer, like seen the printer in my dreams? And I don't think I have. But running the printer all night, every night. Well, I mean, and I mean, no, not all night, every night, but I'm always working in my dreams. I'm always doing something, and some of the times it is. Like running the printer is part of it, or iterating on a model. But I really was thinking about it, and I don't think I've ever actually seen like the nozzle head moving. So maybe my subconscious isn't quick enough. Or maybe it's evidence that I don't actually understand what's happening enough. And the last question, do you look at the world differently now? Which, one from Discord, which was quite an intense one. And weirdly enough, a little bit yes. The more I learn, the smaller the world feels. And understanding, like starting a business and understanding how those things work, and, you know, doing that paperwork, seeing how that side of the world works, really, it kind of shrinks the world. Like, it makes everything a little bit more, like, I understand how the world works more. And the same thing with, like, I saw, you know, Blockbuster Movie the other day, and just from the Blender skills that I have just from these few months of learning Blender, I'm already like, oh, I can see if I had, you know, 10,000 hours, how I could make that. Or I don't know, maybe 100,000 or a million hours. I don't know what the kind of hours are spent on these things. But like, so it kind of shrinks the world a little bit. Like, oh, I understand how that was made. I understand how that was made. And it's really, really cool. I really, really enjoy that. Okay, thank you for watching the Q&A video. Let's take a quick look at the 3D printers and see how they're doing. We're about an hour in or so, and that's where they're at. 71 walls here. Landmines. Doing pretty well. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content, and once I get to 1,000, I'll do another one.